The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and yet expecting different results out of it. What just happened in Germany, in the south of Germany, federal, regional elections, shows not only a questionable state of the human society mind, but it goes way deeper. Absolutely mind-blowing, psychologically fascinating what's happening. Collective brainwash and reshaping of society and mental state, just to touch that on the surface. Before we are gonna get into the fascinating possible explanations of this human behavior, we need to look deeper at what is happening in the industry in the south. So what happened? The south of Germany, the state of Baden-Württemberg, not only kept voting for the same policy in place, the Green Ideological Party and the currently persisting Black Party of CDU to be kept in power, continuation of ongoing economic, industrial, complete German destruction. And by no means I'm trying to be politically here with this video. My opinion is clear. I don't think any party can turn it around. My view on politics is easy. It's trying to be neutral. Less government, less politics, telling and mandating, telling you what to do, less rules. Let the markets be free by itself to regulate and we will all be better off. Easy peasy. Yet it's fascinating to see that you would, with ongoing industry destruction in that region, unemployment rising, companies leaving, capital flight is on fire, you would think people would vote different. Nope, they keep going exactly the same direction, keep voting for continuation of complete destruction. You need to understand that region is and was an industrial, complex powerhouse economically, engineering, manufacturing, automotive, absolutely strong, export powerhouse, home of companies and big players like Mercedes-Benz, Daimler, Porsche, Bosch are hosted and home here. Global industrial leadership here, all shutting down, leaving, unemployment rising. Look at this example and this video snippet from this woman here with her boyfriend, husband, whoever, who is already laughing, symbolizes perfectly and sums up the mental state of people that would keep voting for such industrial, devastating continuation of policy.
Ich hoffe, dass es einfach die AfD nicht wird.
Ja.
Das
Also egal,
ist meine größte Hoffnung.
Egal, ob die Grünen da weiterhin alles kaputt machen können, Hauptsache nicht AfD.
Genau, aber ganz wichtig.
Ehrlich?
Ja.
Ja, aber was ist denn mit den Grünen? Da geht die ganze Wirtschaft geht an den Arsch. Die Heizungsgesetze sorgen dafür, dass die Leute kein Geld mehr haben, dass sie ihre Heizungen rausmachen will und so.
Ja, ich verstehe das, aber für mich kommt die größte Gefahr wirklich von der AfD.
The commentator, the moderator, is asking her why in the hell would she keep voting for the Green Party in place, destroying, continuing complete destruction of industry in that region. And she says, it doesn't matter, let them, I will keep voting for the Green Party to keep destroying. It doesn't matter. All her reasoning is just not the right. That's the biggest danger, the right, the AfD from the right side. Absolutely astonishing from my point of view, mass collective brainwash of society symbolizing her answer is absolutely fascinating. And we need to dig deeper. It's only part of the reasoning how you could explain such behavior and complete destruction. I would have never thought in my life that I would be able to understand not only the mass psychosis of a society, but reflecting and going back to this mental state before World War II. We just don't seem to learn anything from history. You need to understand Germany not only shut down nuclear power plants, which was granting and providing cheap, reliable, stable energy, but the country also destroyed its own cheap gas supply after the collapse of Nord Stream. Let that sink in. Energy costs exploded, but it's not only that. Industrial production started to shift away. Capital flights, investments are increasingly moving to Asia, to the United States. Factories closing, powerhouses are leaving. And also something else happened mind-blowingly that you need to understand. Climate policy objectives are being embedded and have been embedded directly into constitutional and legal frameworks, which potentially allow, from a legal perspective, massive government intervention in markets, into industries, into private rights, property rights, to meet ideological targets of being climate neutral in the future. While the whole world is building nuclear power plants, ramping up CO2 emissions, building oil refineries, building gas refineries, whatever, and yet we don't seem to wake up, granting the government rights to financially suppress us in order to meet mind-blowing, brainwashed ideological targets while the whole world is going into a different reaction. That's already fascinating. And yet, despite absurd rise in energy costs, people losing their job, their employment, despite industry decline, despite growing economic uncertainty, large parts of the electoral parties of the electorate continue to vote for the same policy direction. And that raises a couple fundamental psychological questions. Why? Why does a society continue to support policy appear to be producing negative economic outcomes, undermining and suppressing their own proprietary rights, and giving governments more control also about your ownership? It's hard to grasp. I believe there are 4 deeply concerning but psychological mechanisms at work. The first plausible explanation is mass psychosis, an absolute brainwash of society, taking its toll from ongoing severe stimulation, indoctrination, public media, by psychological alignment, by people, by fear of speaking out their truth. It's insane over ongoing stimulation and time of ongoing media intervention and failed public media disaligned with public objectives, massive brainwash over years, over time, of collectively over society. In every society, dominant narratives can become extremely powerful. Once a narrative becomes morally framed, ongoing continuation, for example, saving the planet, protecting the climate, defending democracy, and so on and so forth, questioning it becomes socially uncomfortable, questionable also social burdens, freedom of speech, dependencies. People are afraid to speak out their truth at work because of work dependencies, and so on and so forth. People align literally with the narrative because it signals moral virtue. If you fall out of place, you are considered and seen questionable differently. Over time, that narrative becomes stronger than the observable reality, and people do not speak out, looking away from reality. Also, what we are seeing culturally, society, massive immigration, massive crime, massive overhaul by government. You, by not speaking up, you build a psychological wall that protects you. It hurts to see the reality, so psychologically it protects you, even though now you know deep inside yourself that this is not the reality. You prefer to look away from the truth because the truth hurts, so you build that wall psychologically to protect you from the pain. The second mechanism is cognitive dissonance. When reality contradicts deeply held beliefs, the human mind tends to protect those beliefs rather than abandon them. I see it everywhere in friends, relatives, family, especially my parents, business-related contacts everywhere. Instead of changing the belief, people reinterpret the facts and build and shape their reality how it fits them. If energy prices rise, it must be for the greater good, it must be because of global markets whatsoever. If industry relocates, it must be temporarily. Nothing to do with us. It's for the greater good. If economic problems emerge, it must be external. It's not our fault. This psychological protection mechanism allows the belief system to survive even when evidence challenges it differently. Absolutely fascinating, mind-blowing. It's not our fault. It's always someone else's fault. This phenomena, building up a psychological wall mentally, helps me personally explain how World War II, how mass psychosis, mass brainwash of society was evidently clear looking back at some historical events. Now I'm starting to grasp how this was from a mental state of society possible looking back. Absolutely mind-blowing. Just my opinion on view. The third mechanism psychologically that helps me understand and grasp How this is possible is the status quo bias. Humans are deeply risk and change averse. Radical political change is frightening. Even if the current system is clearly struggling, people try to hold on onto their familiar system over an uncertain alternative, even though knowing that continuation, attachment on ongoing systems and behavior is self-destructive in plain sight. So people continue voting for what they already know, even though they know or not know that this is absolute self-destruction and decline. And this combination creates something extremely powerful. Narrative alignment, cognitive protection, fear of change. Together, these forces can produce what looks like absolute collective denial. Now, here's the part that absolutely mind-blowing fascinates me. At the same time, Western societies, especially in Germany, claim to be engaged in existential struggle to save the planet from climate catastrophes everywhere. Major wars around the world are destroying cities, energy infrastructure, energy facilities, and ecosystems. Oil deposits burn, industrial plants explode, military conflicts devastate entire regions. Just let that sink in. The environmental damage from war is currently enormous. And yet that topic is not even mentioned, touched, appears to be relevant in ongoing climate debate. That contradiction reveals something way deeper. Where are all the people, the activists, the green parties voting, speaking up now for the whole massive climate destruction, environmental damages? I hear nothing about them. Politics is often less about solving problems and more about sustaining narratives. And history shows us something very uncomfortable and powerful at this stage. Human beings do not always learn from the path. We are learning nothing. Societies have repeatedly followed dominant narratives even when the long-term consequences were obvious. Ground psychology is powerful, much more powerful than rational analysis. The real question is psychological. How long can a society maintain a narrative that contradicts absolutely its economic reality? How much more pain is needed for the German citizens to deflect and detach from that sugar-coated political, psychological narrative touching base and relating to economic reality? Maybe the pain wasn't strong enough yet, or there is no pain after all in people's pockets. Maybe people need to start to lose more their job, start to feel it in their pockets. More unemployment rising, more industries shutting down, more insolvencies, more liquidations, companies moving apart. Probably we need more of that until the pain, the effective pain of realization in people's pockets is there. So the mass psychosis, so people start waking up. To what point does the gap between ideological belief and reality becomes impossible to ignore? Because eventual reality, economic reality, always wins. The only uncertainty I see here is how long does it take to play out, to reverse, to hit reality in your pockets into our everyday life. And then who else are we going to blame for to protect us psychologically?